All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to break down an absolutely incredible philosophy from a speech by Denzel Washington. Seriously, it's one of those ideas that can completely change how you think about failure, about success, and about what you're capable of. So let's just jump right into the big idea. So, this is the quote that just stops you in your tracks, right? If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. Just take a second to let that sink in. It goes against everything we're ever taught about having a safety net, about having a plan B. And that quote leads us perfectly into our first section, rethinking your safety net. I mean, think about it. Ever since we were kids, what's the advice we get? Make sure you have something to fall back on. It's supposed to be this comforting piece of wisdom. But Denzel makes this amazing point that maybe that safety net is the very thing that's holding you back from really flying. So what's really the difference here? Well, falling back, that's all about playing it safe. It's about avoiding failure at all costs, which, often leads to just settling for less than you want. But falling forward, that's about taking risks. It's about saying, you know what, if I fail, at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. It's a complete mindset shift from avoiding failure to actively learning from it. And this whole idea of learning from failure is the perfect setup for our next point, the necessity of failure. This is where it gets really interesting, because it reframes failure not as this terrible thing to be avoided, but as a crucial, absolutely essential part of success. And Denzel asks this question that is just so direct and powerful, we all gotta ask ourselves this. If you don't fail, are you even trying? Look, he's not just saying that to be motivating, he's being real. You are gonna fail at some point. You're gonna lose. You might embarrass yourself. It's part of the deal. So why not just embrace it as proof that you're actually pushing yourself?
Okay, so check this out. I'm going to throw a number at you. 2,600. That's how many times the baseball great Reggie Jackson struck out during his career.
And here's the kicker. That number, it's the all-time record for the most strikeouts in baseball history. But do we remember him as the strikeout king? No way. People remember the home runs. All those strikeouts, all those failures, were just the price he paid to become a legend. All right, here's another one for you. 1,000. Any guesses? That's the number of failed experiments Thomas Edison conducted trying to invent the light bulb. 1,000 failures. Can you just imagine the sheer will, the resilience it took to keep going after failing 1,000 times? Because that 1,001st try, well, that was the one. That was the light bulb that literally changed the world. So you see the pattern here, right? It's the key takeaway. Each failure isn't some tragic dead end. It's progress. It's information. Every failed experiment is just one step closer to success. You're not starting over. You're starting with experience. Okay, so we get it. Taking risks, failing forward, it's essential. But what do we do with that energy? How do we point it in the right direction? Well, that brings us to our next section, dreams versus goals. And understanding this difference, it's absolutely critical for your future. You've probably heard this before, right? Dreams without goals are just dreams. And it's so true. A dream is a nice wish. A goal is that dream with a plan, with a deadline, with some teeth. Denzel really hammers home that achieving goals takes two things, discipline and consistency. Without that, you're just going to be starting things forever and never finishing them. He uses this great metaphor to explain it. The old 9 dots puzzle. Maybe you've seen it. The challenge is to connect all 9 dots using only 4 straight lines, and you can't lift your pencil. So what do most people do? We instinctively try to stay inside that imaginary square the dots make. But the only way to solve it is to draw your lines outside the box. Your biggest goals are going to require you to think and act beyond the limits you've set for yourself. Now, this isn't just theory for him. Let's get into a really personal story from Denzel's own life that he calls his 30-year audition. I mean, this story is the fall forward philosophy in action. It's just perfect. So picture this, a young Denzel Washington, super early in his career, auditions for a role in a big Broadway musical. He feels like it's the perfect part for him. There was just one tiny little problem. He couldn't sing, not a lick. So of course he fails the audition, he doesn't get the part. But here's the thing, he didn't quit. He didn't fall back and become an accountant. He fell forward. He kept grinding, kept preparing for the next audition and the next audition. And then, get this, 30 years later, he returned to that exact same stage to star in the Pulitzer Prize-winning play Fences. 30 years. It brought him right back to the scene of his failure, but this time as a superstar. And he has this great kind of folksy way of summing up that persistence. It's really about just showing up day after day, especially after you fail. Because if you keep putting yourself out there, if you stay in the game, eventually your chance is going to come. And that brings us to the final, and I've got to say, probably the most powerful part of his whole message, your unfulfilled potential. This is where he takes it from just being about your career to being about your legacy, your purpose, what it means to live a truly full life. He asks us to do a little thought experiment, and it's a little heavy for sure, but it is so effective. He says to imagine for a moment that you're on your deathbed at the very end of your life, and standing all around you are these ghosts. And these ghosts represent your unfulfilled potential. They're the ghosts of the ideas you never acted on, the ghosts of the talents you never used. And they're looking at you, and they're angry. They're mad at you because you were the only person who could have given them life, and you chose not to. You let them die with you. So the final question he leaves us with, the question I'm leaving you with, is this. When your time comes, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed? It's just such a powerful call to action. Take the risk, embrace the fall, set the goal, and always, always fall forward.